Marathon training can have a lot of different types of runs. And if you're newer to running, that can be a bit overwhelming. So in this video, I'm gonna break all that down for you. Welcome to Copenhagen Calling Episode 2. I'm Albert, I'm a 254 marathoner, and I'm looking to go sub 250 at the Copenhagen Marathon this spring. And in this series, I'm documenting my training and also sharing training insights and advice along the way. So I just finished my first 2 weeks of training out of 12, and in this video, I'm gonna go through each run I did one by one and explain the purpose of it, as well as how you can apply that type of run to your own training. All right. Let's jump into it. Okay, so day one, week one for me was a 35-minute recovery run. And typically each week on Monday, that's the type of run that I'm gonna do. Recovery runs really aren't glamorous at all, and they're actually gonna be the slowest type of run that you do in marathon training. And in terms of heart rate zones, you'll generally wanna be sitting around zone 1 or maybe kind of the low end of zone 2 for a recovery run. So that should be a very comfortable effort. Now, the point of a recovery run isn't to gain fitness, it's purely for recovery. So you just wanna get some blood flowing. Typically, these runs will be quite short so that you don't put too much extra impact on your body. And the whole point is just so that you can get some active recovery to feel fresh for runs that happen later in the week. And the last thing I'll say for recovery runs is that really if you're running, I'd say under 5 hours a week, it's not something you probably need to have in your week. It's really once you hit higher mileage and start putting more accumulated load and fatigue on your body, that's when recovery runs can start to become more important. It's a way to build your mileage without kind of overstressing your body and putting too much fatigue on your legs. So if you're just getting into running or marathon training and you're running less than 5 hours a week, then I wouldn't worry too much about recovery runs, to be honest, and I'd focus more on easy runs, which I'll talk about next. All right, so next up in week one was on Tuesday, I did a 1 hour easy run. So as you'll see throughout this video, easy runs are really the bread and butter of any marathon training block, and that's gonna be the type of run that you're doing most often each week. And this type of run also has some different names, so I like to call it an easy run. Some people call this zone 2 or running at a conversational pace, but it's all really referring to the same thing. And in my own experience, after approaching easy runs in different ways throughout the past couple years, I'd say the most important thing is just gonna be the effort. You wanna make sure the effort is not really any higher than maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10 generally. Things like a specific pace or even a specific heart rate just aren't that important since those things can vary a lot depending on a lot of different factors. So for example, for pace, the route that you're running can really slow or speed up your pace at the same effort level. And for heart rate, things like how well you slept or how warm or cold it is outside can all affect your heart rate. So it's always best to just go off effort and make sure you're not pushing too hard. And sort of similar to recovery runs, the point of these easy runs that you do throughout the week isn't really to build a ton of fitness. It's really to build your weekly mileage and also to more so maintain the fitness that you build in the harder sessions each week. And just like any skill, the more you practice the act of actually running, the better you're gonna get at it. Easy runs let you build that total volume higher and higher without burning yourself out and just, going too hard and risking injury at the same time. And if you're unsure whether you're running at an easy enough effort, the gold standard way to determine if you're at the right effort level is whether you're able to have a conversation fairly easily with someone while running. You might still need to take a breath here and there, but you should be able to talk in complete sentences without too much difficulty. And in case you want to calculate a ceiling for your heart rate to use as a guideline for easy runs, then here are 2 methods that you can use to calculate that. All right, let's keep it moving. Okay, so on Wednesday I did a track workout and it's actually a pretty classic marathon workout, so I think it'll make for a good example here. Okay, so after doing some dynamic stretching and a warm-up jog as well, the main part of the workout was to do 8 times 1 mile, starting at a threshold effort and working down to 10K pace, which is just a little bit faster. And between each mile, there'd be 90-second walking, standing rest. And generally speaking, I would categorize this workout as a threshold workout. And threshold, which is short for lactate threshold, or actually your second lactate threshold, or LT2, is the point where your body is just barely able to, keep up with clearing out the lactate that your body is producing under higher intensity efforts. And beyond this threshold, efforts get exponentially harder and you're gonna be able to sustain them for a lot shorter of a time period. The general consensus is that if you were right at your lactate threshold, you could sustain that for about 45 to 60 minutes. And generally it'll feel like a 7 or 8 out of 10 effort. So the reason this is important for marathon training is your body's gonna become more efficient at clearing out lactate and really just more efficient in general. And you're gonna get more comfortable both on a mental and physical level at running at efforts that are just a bit uncomfortable, that's gonna make you a much better runner. So there are generally two ways that people tackle threshold workouts. The first option is that you can train underneath your threshold just a little bit, so going a bit slower. And this will let you do more volume in a single workout because you're not pushing your body quite as hard. And for well-trained runners, you can do a lot of volume in a training week at this effort level. And that'll both make you faster at your threshold and also more efficient as a runner in general. And the second option is gonna be going just a little bit past your threshold. Not too much, but typically for a lot of runners, this is gonna be about 10K pace. This is also sometimes referred to as pulling up your threshold from above instead of pushing it from down below like you would with the first approach. And this approach is also good because instead of being a bit more gentle, you're almost forcing your threshold to improve because your body is gonna be more uncomfortable, and in order to make that pace comfortable, it has to get better at being efficient and clearing out lactate. So it's good to do both types of threshold training. Just be aware that if you're gonna be going past your threshold, typically you won't be able to do as much volume at that effort level because it's gonna be more intense and you're gonna put more fatigue on your body. And so for my workout, the mile reps started right around threshold effort and then slowly sped up to where it got to around 10K pace by the end of the workout. And this would be a good example of pulling the threshold from above because I was going past my threshold for most of the workout. Okay, moving on. On Thursday, I did another 50-minute recovery run and also did 4 sets of 15-second strides at the end. Now, strides are gonna be another tool that you have in your toolbox for marathon training. And pretty much what they are is just a short acceleration, usually, in this case, 15 seconds long, or sometimes, it's more of a distance, so usually up to about 100 meters. So the key to a good stride is gonna be starting out at around your easy run pace, but quickly accelerating so that you get to around 8.5 or 9 out of 10 of your top speed. So it's not gonna be a sprint, but you're still going pretty fast. And you wanna aim to hit that 9 out of 10 speed around 70% of the way through the stride. So you wanna be accelerating for the first 70% and then hold that top speed for the remaining portion of it. And the biggest thing to keep in mind to get the most out of your strides is that you wanna stay as relaxed as possible throughout the entire rep. If you find yourself tensing up in the middle of the stride, either in your upper body or your legs, then try your best to relax as much as you can. But if you find that you can't relax, then try slowing down a little bit. Now, strides are short enough that they're not really gonna add a whole ton of fatigue to your body, but they are gonna get you better at running at close to your top speed and working on that neuromuscular coordination. So strides are a good way to get some short bouts of fast running in each week, and that'll also make all your slower paces feel just a little bit more comfortable. And typically doing strides once a week is plenty, and you can just tack them on to the end of an easy run. Hey, about to go for a run, Albert here. Just wanted to add 2 more things about strides that I forgot to mention. So first thing is, at the end of an easy run, you would be good doing about 4 to 8 strides. Maybe at the absolute most going up to 10, but beyond that, you shouldn't really need to do any more. And the second thing is you wanna make sure you fully recover between strides. So what I like to do is I'll do my stride and then walk back to where I started. And if I feel fully recovered, then I'll slowly jog back, usually maybe for the last quarter of the way back to where I started. And you wanna make sure you start each stride fully fresh because the point isn't to build fitness from these strides. The point is just to work on your running mechanics and make you more efficient at faster paces. All right, that's all I wanted to add. Gonna go for my run now. Okay, so Friday was a rest day for me, and then Saturday was another hard workout day. So I'd also categorize my Saturday workout as a threshold workout, so a lot of the principles are gonna be the same, but I'll just run through the workout so that you can see what I did. So the workout was about 3K on the road at a threshold effort, and then jumping into 4 sets of 2K at 10K pace on the track with a 4-minute jog rest, and then wrapping things up with another 10 minutes at a threshold effort, which ended up being about 2.5K. And the last run of week 1 was on Sunday, and that was an hour-and-a-half easy run. So one thing that's kind of interesting is that with the way my coach has programmed this first and second week of my training, there isn't really a true long run in either week. So generally for marathon training, you'll want to be doing runs that are about 2 to 3 hours long each week, and especially once you get a bit closer to your goal race. And that's just gonna be the best way to prep your body for the specific demands of the marathon because you'll build muscular endurance by running that long continuously in training. You can practice your fueling across a longer span of time, which will be very important for the race. You can also just build your aerobic fitness, and overall, it's just gonna be the most marathon-specific run that you can do. And I didn't really do a classic long run in either week 1 or week 2 of training, but I will be doing them starting in week 3, so I'll make sure to document those once I get there. All right, and I'll quickly walk you through my second week of training as well, but I did start to feel a bit sick on Sunday, and that kind of bled into week 2 and forced me to take some time off. All right, so Monday in week 2 was a 45-minute recovery run. All right, it's Monday, February 23rd, and if you couldn't tell from my voice, I've been feeling a bit under the weather. I kind of started to feel it on Saturday morning before the track workout I did with the group, and then it kind of stayed the same on Sunday, and today is maybe slightly worse, but it's just kind of been, not too bad, just some congestion and my throat feeling kind of funny and that sort of thing. And today my voice sounds absolutely horrible, which is, it's always great. To be honest, it's always pretty frustrating to get sick when you're just, wanting to train super hard and you're in the middle of like a marathon build or, a build for a big race. Yeah, I don't know, I'm feeling just maybe even especially frustrated because I've already been sick this year, and that was kind of, right at the start in early January. And I don't know, I think in my head, like, I'm fine getting sick once in a flu season, but twice just feels, kind of excessive. But yeah, I don't know what's going on this year, but feels like there's just been a ton of stuff going around in Vancouver at least. And just going to hope this one doesn't get too much worse. I've got a 45-minute or so recovery run on the schedule today, and I'm just going to take it very, very chill. There's no fitness to really be gained here. I'll cut it if I'm not feeling too great. Just cut it a bit shorter and just going to keep it very relaxed regardless, and then prioritize recovery for, the rest of today and, throughout the week. But anyway, yeah, let's get this recovery run going. Wow. Oh. All right, we're about 2.5K into this run and not feeling too bad sickness-wise, but definitely a little bit tired. Big blunder was these though. I wore these out and it's really it's almost sunset and really just don't need them, so I feel like a bit of a doofus, but you live and you learn. So anyway, let's get the rest of this run wrapped up. All right, and that's the recovery run in the books. Managed to do the full 45 minutes, which is good, and body felt relatively good. Just gonna shower now and, see how I feel tomorrow. And hopefully this is the worst I'm gonna feel, but we'll have to see. Then I woke up on Tuesday morning feeling a bit worse, and my coach and I decided that the smart thing to do would just be to take Tuesday and Wednesday completely off so I can focus on recovering. And just as a quick aside, that's kind of a good principle to have in marathon training. It's always better to potentially sabotage just 1 week in the name of recovery. And in my case, I really just missed a single workout, which in the grand scheme of things in a 12-week build is not really that important. The flip side is if I had pushed through that sickness, I might have been sick for a lot longer, and that could have jeopardized potentially multiple weeks, which would be a lot worse in my training. So it's always better to be a bit conservative, and this way you might lose a few days or maybe a week of training, but if you push through something unnecessarily, you might be losing multiple weeks or even months of training due to illness or injury. So it's always better to be conservative. And with being sick this week, I accepted that I was going to miss one of my workouts, and I was just going to be doing one workout, and that was going to be on Saturday. So after taking Tuesday and Wednesday off, I bounced back on Thursday slowly with a 1-hour easy run. And then on Friday, I did a 1 hour and 10-minute easy run as well. So just kind of easing back into things with easy running and not pushing things too soon. Now, that being said, Saturday's workout was really pushing the pace, but I felt recovered enough that I felt like I could handle those higher intensities. Yeah, big workout today. We're gonna be doing, plan is to do 6x1K at 5K effort with a 5-minute jog rest. Was sick this week. I'm probably still a little bit sick. I feel mostly okay now. Always gonna play it by ear. If things aren't feeling too good, I won't do the full workout, but plan originally was to run around 3:33 per kilometer and see if that's kind of like a sustainable pace for these 1K reps. It is a bit of a hilly 1K loop, which is good because I have a 5K, the St. Patrick's 5K in 2 weeks coming up here in Vancouver, which is a hilly road 5K. So we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty excited for it. I just hope, the body feels okay, and, better to be safe if things aren't feeling good and just, live to fight another day. I got the Evo SLs on for today, and fueling wise, got drink mix in here, 75 grams of carbs and one gel, which is 30 grams of carbs just in case. Yeah. Let's get it done. So the workout on Saturday was a 5K warm-up jog, followed by 6 minutes at a threshold effort, and then 6 times 1K at around 5K pace, but really even a bit faster than that, followed by a 5-minute rest where you're jogging most of that rest. And then finishing things off with about a 4.5K cool down jog. All right, that's a wrap on the workout. Managed to do all 6 1K repeats. Pace was a bit
faster than I was expecting, to be honest. I think most of them were between 324 and 327. Yeah, it was a bit faster than I was expecting, so that's definitely a nice confidence booster, but off a lot of rest too, so the paces could be a bit faster. Crazy headwind out here, so that definitely slowed things down a bit, but yeah, other than that, the weather was literally perfect. Just a nice sunny day, and so many people, you know, putting in the work, other run clubs, other running groups, just so many people, you know, getting their workouts done. So that was super inspiring. Felt pretty good with the sickness and everything. So see how the body bounces back tomorrow. But yeah, definitely good that, you know, the sickness didn't bog me down too much this week. Got back into things. Really just missed one workout, which in the grand scheme of things isn't too bad. You know, kind of focus on recovery today and then, yeah, see how the body bounces back tomorrow. But really pumped about that one.
Now, Saturday's workout was kind of interesting because typically in a marathon build, you won't be running a whole lot faster than at 10K pace. And in this case, I was running faster than 5K pace, probably closer to my 3K pace. And really, this isn't gonna be super helpful for marathon training because these efforts are just so intense and you can only sustain them for such a short period that they're just not gonna be that relevant for the marathon. But I do have a 5K race coming up in 2 weeks. And so this was a sort of fitness check for that 5K. And sometimes it is nice to just break out of the monotony and do a workout that's a bit spicier. And it was a nice confidence boost to hit these paces in the 1K reps because I've never ran them that fast before. And also by running at these fast paces, relatively speaking, your marathon pace is gonna feel a whole lot more comfortable. So generally speaking, I'd categorize this as an intervals workout, which really is gonna be the least important type of workout for marathon training, but it is still important to sprinkle it in once in a while, both to mix things up and also to just work on those faster paces once in a while. And to wrap up week 2, I did a 1 hour, 40-minute easy run on Sunday. All right, and that about wraps up the video. So I'm still kind of on the way back from being sick. I'm mostly okay at this point, but really just kind of still keeping it in mind and, you know, staying focused on getting good sleep, eating well, and that sort of thing so that I can bounce back fully to take on week 3 and beyond. I'm looking forward to a big week of training in week 3, and I'll be racing my 5K at the end of week 4. And I'll document those 2 weeks in the next episode of Copenhagen Calling, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.